Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and today we are back with a brand new tier list. And if you've been keeping up with the channel recently, we have been doing a tier list on the Tracy Beaker franchise, all of those TV shows, including the story of Tracy Beaker Returns, and today we are going to be doing the Dumping Ground. And what we are ranking here on our tier list is the seasons. So every single season of Story of Tracy Beaker Returns, and the Dumping Ground. There are 16 seasons altogether, and we did a first part video before, and it got a certain amount of likes, and you guys highly requested it. So what we are doing now is the second part, where we are going to be adding the Dumping Ground seasons into this tier list. If you want to go and check out the past tier list before, if you're not up to date, or if you can't really remember it, then make sure that you go and click the card that will be appearing in the top right hand corner of your screen right now, or you can go and click in the description down below, and that'll take you right over to that tier list so that you're all up to date. Then you can come back and you can find out where we place the Dumping Ground seasons into this tier list, because that is where we are placing them right now. But before we go any further onto this video, I just want to clarify this is my own opinion. You guys will probably have many different opinions to me on where these seasons should be ranked, so I want to know what you guys think. Make sure you let me know down below in the comments where you guys would place your very own seasons. And before we go any further, just please make sure that you've clicked that red subscribe button and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make a brand new tier list video. So guys, let's get on with it. So guys, we are back with our tier list from last video. These are where we place the tiers. If you want to know why, again, the link to the past video will be down below in the description if you haven't seen it already. So before we go any further, let's just run over some of these tiers again so that we can get used to what they are. So at the top here, we have our Tracy Beaker tier. Now, of course, Tracy Beaker is the main character of like this whole franchise, and you know, if you're Tracy Beaker, you are like top tier. You are an amazing season. You can't be beaten, really. Next we have the GG family. You are a great season. I'd watch this season all the time. However, you're just not as good as the ones that make in the Tracy Beaker tier. Then we have relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. That's basically where they're an alright season. You know, I'd watch them again. However, they're just relevant. You know, they're not bad. They're not like amazing. They're just pretty good. Next, we have more non-existent than Tracy's mum. If you've seen the original Story of Tracy Beaker, you will know Tracy's mum was like never in. Even though Tracy Beaker always tried to dream of her, she was just barely in apart from the movie. So if you're more non-existent than Tracy's mum, it's just a very forgettable season, if you know what I mean. Next, we have Elaine the Payne's best mate. Now, you do not want to be Elaine the Payne's best mate. That is a bad tier. But especially even worse is the just bog off tier. Of course, Tracy Beaker's famous catchphrase, and if Tracy Beaker tells you to just bog off, we never want to watch the season whatsoever ever again. Like, it's so bad, you know, you don't want to even remember that it's part of the show. Okay, hopefully none will go in the just bog off column, but you know, you never know. So anyway, guys, now that we have sorted out what our tiers are and we have all of these old seasons back in, now we have 8 seasons to rank from the Dumping Ground Series 1 all the way up to Series 8. So let's begin on Series 1. Now, Series 1 had a big thing to do. It had to persuade me and you guys that the Dumping Ground could still work without Tracy Beaker. And personally, I'm going to say an unpopular opinion here. Originally, for me, it did not do that. As soon as I'd seen Tracy Beaker Series 3, which you can see up here, I have put in the top tier because I thought it was amazing. The Dumping Ground Series 1 came out, and I just wasn't invested in it. I stopped watching the Dumping Ground after the Dumping Ground Series 1 because I never got invested in it. But then, years later, I did go back and rewatch it, and I realised it's not as bad as I was making it out. I was just completely focused on, there's no Tracy Beaker, so clearly it's bad. That's not the case. This season is really good, and clearly it did something right because we have all of these 8 seasons straight afterwards, so it's done something right. So what did this season do well? Well, it had a really strong and good intro. The Home Alone intro is a 2-part that I just go back to all the time and watch. It is so funny at times of it. Each character had something important to do, and it's just every time you watch it, it's not like it gets boring, it gets even better each time. And it had to get people on board, and it clearly did. And there were some really great classics in this season, like SOS, where Jodie returns back to her home. We've got A Day in the Past, which I'm sure all of you have seen. That is one of the best episodes of the Dumping Ground, in my personal opinion. You've got Esme, you've got the one where Gus leaves. So there was some really, really good episodes in this season. However, apart from like a really strong intro and a few good classics, the what I call filler episodes, like the episodes that don't really have much importance, they really felt like filler episodes. For example, Baby or Truth Is Out, where Frank gets a job, they just sort of felt like they were kind of out of place and slightly forgettable. They were still good, just a bit forgettable here and there. So I'm going to put the Dumping Ground Series 1 probably not in more non-existent than Tracy's Mum, because even though it did have a few forgettable episodes, it did still have some really good episodes and some strong ones. So I think I'm going to put it at the end of relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook. You know, it was good. I'd still go back and watch it, but like I said, it didn't really hook me straight away, and some of the filler episodes do just really feel like filler episodes. Now we've got the Dumping Ground Series 2. Now, if you're wondering, hang on a minute, I've just said that I didn't really watch the Dumping Ground Series 1 until later on. How on earth did I get into the Dumping Ground again after Tracy Beaker? Well, it was because of the Dumping Ground Series 2. Honestly, it completely changed my mind about this show. I think this is one of the best seasons that any of these shows has created. It has everything in. It has drama, it has story arcs, it has some amazing episodes. And basically, as I was telling you guys before, I didn't really like the Dumping Ground Series 1. When Series 2 came out, I watched the first episode because I thought, do you know what? I might as well give it a try. I'll just give it one more chance. And if this didn't hook me, then I was going to stop watching it. However, the first two-parter where Bailey comes in, who is one of my favourite characters of all time, and Faith gets run over, it's just absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. You've got Mei Lee coming back, and of course, this season just had absolutely everything. So I'm just going to put it straight up into the Tracy Beaker column. I don't think it's as good as Tracy Beaker Series 3, but it is up there. It is absolutely amazing. It was just awesome. It had loads and loads of really cool story arcs. It had the first ever proper Dumping Ground special with Jodie in Wonderland, which, no matter whether you love or hate Alice in Wonderland, you've got to admit, Jodie in Wonderland was something awesome. It had loads and loads of cool story arcs. For example, you had Faith's one, you had Frank's one, which had some amazing episodes in. You had, of course, where Frank was out on the street. It felt more real and more what we were getting in Tracy Beaker Returns, rather than something that, you know, didn't feel like it was what it was before. Of course, we had that episode where Frank's on the streets and we get introduced to Kazima. That was brilliant. We had that special with Liam's story and then Liam returning. I mean, if you bring back Liam, of course I'm going to love this season. And you know how before I was saying in Series 1 that the filler episodes were kind of annoying? This one, I actually loved, like, all of the episodes that had, like, no relevance whatsoever to anything else. One of my most favourite episodes of Series 2, which I always go back and watch, is Series 2, Episode 7, called Endurance. And it's basically an episode where they can't decide what they're watching on TV. So they decide to touch the TV challenge, and they wait for the entire episode to see, whether someone will leave the TV and who will be the last one standing to touch TV. It's such a stupid and simple idea, and clearly has no relevance whatsoever to any of the storylines Series 2. But it's just brilliant. Like, it's just one of my favourite episodes. I watch it all the time because it's just a funny, fun episode that I want the Dumping Ground to be like. I wish they still did episodes like that because it was just such a great episode. So, for that reason, the Dumping Ground Series 2 is just one of my favourites. It had everything in, and it had, of course, where Faith got run over. It had Bailey. It had all the characters in. Had the hype. It was just up top quality. I'd definitely place this in the Tracy Beaker column. Next we have the Dumping Ground Series 3. So by now I was basically invested in the Dumping Ground. I knew from Series 2 with some of the episodes that, you know, it can still work without Tracy Beaker. And then Series 3 came along. Now this one had a huge opening. It had a big 2-part opening, and it basically began with the police just being there, which I thought amazing intro. And the opening is pretty good. Like, it's not the best opening ever, but it's good. I'll have it. And it is the first season to do something which no other season in this list currently had ever done. It was the first season to be split into 2 parts with more episodes on. Instead of 13 episodes, it now had 20 episodes. That was a big thing to do. So there's two sides to this. You know, you've got your bad side of there is now, unfortunately, more of those filler episodes which have no relevance to anything, and you have to wait a little longer before we get the full season. But good, because there was more two-parters, and Series 3 did not disappoint. So the first ever time they ever had the second part come out, they of course began episode 11 with a two-parter, and they introduced Sasha, and that is honestly one of my favourite two-parters ever, throughout anything. It is amazing. The character of Sasha was awesome. Speaking of which, the Dumbing Grad Series 3 had so many great characters coming in. You had Ryan, you had Finn, you had Billy and Tony. It was full of characters who we all loved. You had Mischief coming in, and who doesn't love Mischief? And it also had some great classic episodes in Series 3. You had, of course, the one where Johnny leaves. You had the one called Breaking In, where Kazima and T are just left alone in the house and there's burglars. That is one of my favourite episodes. Doesn't really have any relevance to anything, but it's just amazing. Who doesn't love it? And you had some quite adventurous episodes as well. For example, the episode Something Borrowed, you know, where Carmen drops her necklace down the loo. I mean, it's a completely random episode and takes place from two different perspectives of what Carmen was thinking. And it all takes place in the bathroom, in that tiny little bathroom in Ashdean Ridge. I mean, it's just an amazing idea, and it works. For some reason, it works. So I think Dumbing Grad Series 3 did have some great episodes like that. And not to forget, Kazima's story arc with the whole refugee scenario was a great thing to learn about, and had some brilliant and real types of lessons that we could all learn from. So I think Series 3 had some great moments in, so I think it's going to have to go in the DG family. It's not as good as probably these two, but it is a really good season, had some strong bits. Even though it had some of those fillers in that we don't really like, it was courageous. I mean, it started with 20 episodes, which none had ever done before, and it paid off. It was a very good season. Next we have the Dumbing Grad Series 4. Now, unfortunately for me, this one sort of slacked a little. It's got some good episodes, don't get me wrong, but apart from that, it is just basically forgettable. That's how I've always remembered it. It has some big moments at times, but everything else was really forgettable. If you can tell me some of the main episodes from Series 4, I'd love you to tell me. You had that weird 3 episodes where that character Sammy came in, who didn't really have much to do. You did have the Series 4 Part 1 finale where it looked like Mike was going. That 3-parter worked well. I thought it did something well. However, we'd already seen in Tracy Beaker Series 2 that Mike had left the dumping ground before, and they were acting like it had never happened before. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit. It had some nice moments. You had Carmen and T leaving, unfortunately, and there was an alright finale with Jodie and Kingsley in the fire in the flat. But apart from that, didn't really have any standout episodes. So I'm just going to put this in more non-existent than Tracy's mum. It had a few good episodes, but it's just really quite forgettable. Next we have the Dumbing Grad Series 5. I thought this was definitely an upgrade from Series 4, so it's not going to go in more non-existent than Tracy's mum. It was a lot better, and I think the reason why it was a lot better is because it started brilliantly with where Bailey leaves, and I thought that was a brilliant episode to begin with. It touched on throughout all the seasons stuff on like racism, and when Kazima leaves with Alex coming in, it had some really strong and emotional moments for these characters that we've just grown to love over these past few seasons. The first part was very, very powerful, starting with Bailey leaving and then ending with Kazima leaving and introducing Alex. Just amazing. And it had some great classic fun episodes. For example, the wardrobe, which I absolutely love, where it's just Ryan, Joseph and Kazima just trying to push a wardrobe out, and then they lose Joseph. It's just funny and it's amazing. You had Where You Belong, where Mike and Maylee have their first ever big fight. You had The Switch, where the twins left. This season was sort of the one where I feel like lots of characters that we all grew to love left, which unfortunately is a bit sad, but it is still good. And of course it had that awesome finale for the first time where people actually returned. You had T returning, you had Johnny returning, you had Electra returning, you had Frank returning. It was just an amazing time in that finale. So I think this is probably going to go up high in the DG family. I'm going to say it's probably better than Series 3. Is it better than the story of Tracy Beaker Series 4? Probably not, just because that series had the well odds in. But I think where we placed it is a good tier. Next we have the Dumping Ground Series 6. Now, the intro to this was absolutely amazing. I remember absolutely loving it with Jodie and her mum and having to deal with that. I thought that was a great intro. And of course, the finale of it had Mike and his wedding, which has been building up throughout it. You had lots of people returning. You had Liam returning. You had the twins returning. You had T returning. You had Lily returning. You had Bailey returning. You had lots and lots of people returning. And of course, you had Tracy Beaker returning. Now, that all sounds like amazing. You've got Tracy returning and all these characters that we love coming back. However, is it just me? Or this is probably like a really big unpopular opinion. I just feel like the wedding episode, it was a great idea, and don't get me wrong, I really like the episode, but they just underused Tracy, in my personal opinion. I feel like if you're going to bring Tracy Beaker back, it's got to be huge. Like, it's got to be, like, such a huge moment. She has to do something so big. She's got to do, like, a big Tracy plan or something like that. And instead, she just persuades Mike that going along with this wedding is the right thing, and she gets annoyed at Ryan. That's basically it, which I feel like it's just so underusing of the talent that Danny Harmer brings to the character. That might just be me thinking that. You guys might absolutely love that. Let me know in the comments whether you think they used Tracy well when they brought her back, or whether you think, you know, it was fun to have her back. Don't get me wrong, I love that. Whether you think it was fun to have her back, but like it was just like, she was kind of underused. That's my personal opinion, which kind of put Series 6 a bit more down for me. However, I did think it was good because they brought in Charlie, and you had lots of that development where Charlie had her granddad, and then unfortunately Charlie's granddad passed away. I thought that was a brilliant finale to the season. Of course, you had Maylee being pregnant, which I thought that worked really well. And the only worse downside was that the filler episodes were pretty bad. Yeah, they were bad filler episodes. So I don't really know where to put this one. I don't think it's forgettable, so I don't really think it goes on more non-existent than Tracy's mum, but I don't think it's relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook either. So unfortunately for the Numbing Ground Series 6, I think it started off well, ended well, but everything else in between just didn't really work for me. So I'm going to put it in Elaine the Pain's Best Mate, near the top of Elaine the Pain's Best Mate. I know it's sad to put it there, you guys might completely disagree with me, but I think it's going to go there. I've said it. I've done it. Next, we have the Numbing Ground Series 7. Now, this one is definitely better than Series 6, in my personal opinion, straight away. It had a great introduction, using Sasha to her potential. What I love about the Numbing Ground is it takes the characters that we all know and love, puts them in a scenario, and uses them to their full potential. The Series 7 introduction, where Sasha reunites with her old friend Freya, that did exactly that. It put Sasha in an unusual scenario and used her to her full potential. It was a brilliant intro, and I absolutely loved it. It had some good and strong story arcs throughout the season. We had the Jodie and Tyler story arc. We had the Charlie and Alex story arc. I mean, who couldn't ask for anything more? Of course, when Charlie left, that was really sad, but it was really powerful, and we had lots of other powerful leavings throughout the season. We had Ryan leaving, where he meets his mum, and that is one of the strongest, finales the Numbing Grounds ever made. It was honestly amazing. And of course, we had Mike leaving, which is really, really sad. Now, the only downside that I'd have to this season is, unfortunately, the whole situation with Mike leaving. Don't get me wrong, I think it was time for the character to go. I mean, he'd literally been in all of these. He was everywhere. But that's the problem. Unfortunately, if you're a fan of all these shows, you will have seen Mike throughout all of these seasons, and I just don't believe that he was ever in care. Maybe the writers thought he was in care when it got to season 7, but the original writers who were writing Mike in the original story of Tracy Beaker, they did not think he was in care whatsoever. He didn't even tell Tracy Beaker about it. You don't do that. He would have told Tracy Beaker if he was in care. Which sort of puts Numbing Ground Series 7 a bit worse for me, because I just think they sent Mike off in a really bad way, and I think he deserved a lot better. I think the prom, the finale, is a great episode, but when he's leaving, you could have brought Tracy Beaker back and used her. It would have been amazing. I don't really follow the story of him with his twin brother. I just don't really think it works very well. I believe that he would go back to see his mum, but I don't really think it was the best send-off for Mike, unfortunately. And if you want to know more about my opinions on that, I made a video all about it, and you can go and click the card up there. And that's basically discussing whether the Numbing Ground should end or not. But as for Series 7, it had some great episodes, don't get me wrong. But that bit about Mike, that finale, I just feel like he needed more. He needed a bigger send-off. And I just feel like the character didn't get what he would deserved. So I think it's probably relevant enough to be in Gus's notebook, probably a bit higher than the rest of these. As high as Story of Tracy Beaker Series 1? I'd say so. I'd say it's in there. That seems like a good situation. And finally, we have the Dumbing Ground Series 8, and this is the current season that we are all on right now. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it has not aired completely yet, but we do have, I think, around 16 episodes currently of this season, so basically, we can see what it's like. We've had the first part of it. Now, unfortunately, Series 8 is like, it's a new era of the Dumping Ground because Mike's gone. You've got all of the characters from the Tracy Beaker Returns have all left, apart from Jodie now. Tyler has left in Series 8, which I thought they did really well in Series 8. That's a positive of Series 8. You've got the new character, Scott, who is fine, I guess. And you've got lots of other new characters who are just fine. Like, I don't really know how you would describe them. And that's basically all I can say about this season, unfortunately. When Tyler left, I thought that was really powerful. And I loved how they brought Elektra back. I thought that went really well. However, the new characters are just boring. And I don't want to say this. Like, it's nothing against the actors. I just find them so boring and underdeveloped. Like, not all the characters. At the end of Series 7, you had Beck coming in. I thought she's a really great character. Love that character. I mean, Beck's amazing. But then you had, at the end of Series 7, people like Katie being introduced, who in Series 8, I've barely noticed she's there. The new character Viv, who's okay, I guess. You've got the character Nazia, who barely appears in Series 8. Maybe we'll see him a bit more now. There's this new character called Max, who we don't really know much about, and I guess he's okay. They're all fine characters. I just think they're just so underdeveloped and so underused, unfortunately. And there's not really many standout episodes in this season, apart from when Tyler leaves, which is a real shame. So I really hope these next few episodes, when we're going to get them for the season, are going to be amazing to change my mind about this. But currently, at the rate it's going, this is in the just bug off tier. This might be a huge unpopular opinion, and if you disagree with me, feel free to put it down in the comments below. But I just really don't think that the Dumbing Ground Series 8 has been any better than any of these upper seasons. So I really hope Season 9, they get it back to what it used to be. But anyway, guys, that is officially the end of our Dumping Ground Seasons tier list. Sorry, this has been a really long episode, but I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And if you have, make sure that you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you didn't, check out the last video where we ranked the earlier seasons, Story of Tracy Beaker and Tracy Beaker Return series, and you want to go and see that again, there'll be a link down below in the description for you to go and check that out. Make sure you let us know down in the comment section down below whether you agree with any of my picks for where I place these seasons or whether you disagree, and there'll be a link to the tier list down below so that you can go and check it out yourself and fill it in yourself, and then you can share it to us and we'll see what your very own list is like. And make sure you put all of your thoughts and opinions of where you would place your own seasons in your very own list down below in the comments. And also, while you're down there, we've currently ranked the characters on a tier list of the Dumping Ground sort of franchise, and we've ranked now the seasons. If you have any other ideas of what you want us to rank on these tier lists, make sure you also put them down below in the comment section, and we will try to make that come true for you guys. But as always, we've been here on Gated Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.